Hello, this is Deborah Baker, and today I'm going to be talking about how to secure cloud serverless. Yes, you heard me right. In this video, I'm going to be talking about serverless. What is serverless? And then we're going to talk about how to secure serverless. So it sounds really great. Wow, I've got cloud and it's serverless. Wow, it's just like running out there in the ether. Well, no, there's still a data center somewhere. There's still virtual machines. There's still all of this networking infrastructure, but you are not responsible for it. You as a customer. And what you've done is your cloud service provider is providing all of this. And it really maps, you can think of it a lot like a SaaS service, but it's a development environment. So AWS is actually they're managing the OS, the infrastructure, the networking. So the only thing you have to worry about is your code and your data. And that's it. So it's really, there's some really cool things about it. Okay, you've reduced your attack surface for one thing, because now you don't have to worry about patching the operating system. Now, first I want to say the serverless platforms, this is what they're called. This is what you'll hear. So for Amazon, it's AWS Lambda. For Microsoft, it's Azure Functions. And for Google, it's Google Cloud Functions. Now, there's some really cool parts. You don't have to worry about patching. Woohoo! That's awesome. That is so awesome. Now, you are going to have to patch your actual code and the third-party software that you use in your code and things like that. But you don't have to patch the operating system. There's a lot you don't have to worry about. So that is pretty awesome. And you have a smaller attack surface. Great. Awesome. Cons are vendor lock-in. It's very hard to go from AWS serverless to Azure serverless. And there could be performance issues. Now, it has built-in availability, built-in scalability, which is all the normal cloud that you get from cloud. But there could be issues based on code inefficiencies or connectivity issues. And these also might be harder to troubleshoot and diagnose because you don't have the same control over the servers, over the OS, and things like that. Now, what can you do to secure your serverless cloud? Well, number one is least privilege. So each function, you want to grant the least amount of privilege or permissions to it. And if that function does not need access to a database, external server, or web server, then just disable it. Block that access, because then that can't be exploited if a hacker comes in and, is trying to take advantage of your serverless cloud environment. And likewise, and this is just basic good security, is you want to grant each user minimum permissions. Only give them permissions for what they need to access. So you don't want everyone to have root, for example. Okay, so the next thing is you want to secure your data. And this is true with, cybersecurity, information security. Any data in transit you want to have encrypted. You want to be using TLS version 1.2 or above. TLS 1.3 is even better. SSH v.2 or above. And by the way, make sure that you disable TLS 1.1 and 1.0. Because if you enable TLS 1.2 or above and you don't disable TLS 1.1 or 1.0, then an attacker could come in, connect with it 1.0, and get the server to negotiate down. And then there's, all sorts of exploits. You want to store your sensitive information in environment variables. And this is like your API keys, password hashes, And, PII data, you want to make sure it's stored, that it's encrypted with a symmetric key of like AES. 256 is great. AES 128 is sufficient. 256 is better. Now you want to monitor and manage all of your events. So this is like, checking the audit logs, making sure if there are anomalies or, something's not working correctly, but you need to be monitoring these things. These logs, if something's caught in the logs and you're not monitoring those logs and there's not something actually checking that, then someone could be trying to hack into your serverless cloud environment and you wouldn't know. Now, vulnerability scans. I know I said you didn't have to patch, but you do have to keep your code patched. And then any third-party applications, open source, all of those things that make up your code and your application, those have to stay up to date and those have to be patched if there's vulnerabilities. So I went and researched various open source tools, and AquaSec Trivy. This is an open source vulnerability scanner that will work in your serverless environment. You also want to keep up with CISA's known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. And I highly recommend subscribing to the CISA alerts. They've done a great job. You won't get overwhelmed, but every week they will highlight, this is the new vulnerability or vulnerabilities that you really need to, make sure that you patch, and they'll actually give you dates. Make sure it's patched by this date. So it's really, they're doing an awesome job over there. And you want to monitor your keys and secrets to ensure they are encrypted when stored. Now, runtime security needs to be done. And what this is, you want to validate all your inputs, because what could happen is there could be a code injection due to improper input-output data validation. There's also deserialization attacks that your serverless security, your serverless cloud environment could be susceptible to. Now, application security tools. This is a whole wonderful list of open source tools, and I have all the links to all of these in the description, but everybody needs to be doing static application security testing, and there's some great options. You've got the GitHub code scanning, Contrast CodeSec, which works for your serverless. Then if you have any sort of web server or web applications in your code and your stack, your product, you want to use the dynamic application security testing. And OWASP ZAP is a great open source tool. There's purpleteam, Code Intelligence app. Then there's interactive application security testing, and the Contrast Community Edition is recommended. And then finally, detecting known vulnerable components. There is OWASP Dependency Check and OWASP Dependency Track. And again, the links are down below the video for all of these. Now, thank you so much for watching, and go get your serverless cloud environment secure. And let me know if you have any questions. And remember to like, subscribe, and hit notify.